You're stupid. Now it's your turn. Wage slave?
Stick It to the Stickman brings back nostalgia, but is that enough to make this one of the best indie games of the year? My name is Dove and I love indie video games, and today I want to talk about Stick It to the Stickman, made by indie developer Free Lives. Genres for games are there to help us understand maybe what we're getting into when we buy a new game. And on the surface, a physics-based brawler roguelite sounds absolutely fantastic. And to be honest, a lot of the game, when you break it down, is really well done. But when I put everything together, I don't always find myself clamoring to want to replay Stick It to the Stickman. The combat is both incredibly interesting and a tiny bit frustrating. I absolutely love the physics-based animation, the tiny little details throwing your enemies into every background and throwing them out of windows. It's all gold. But while the animations are near perfect, the game doesn't pull off a free-flowing combat that you would want in this kind of game. It may be a callback to more of those Flash player style games, and maybe that's just a little too far for me. So let's break down the main game, and although there are a number of different activities you can do in that game, the main focus is the combat system, where you're literally climbing levels to get to the top of the building and take on the boss. The main goal of the game is for your nameless and just basically a number of an employee is supposed to climb the corporate ladder. Now, not to spoil too much, but that becomes an endless loop, as you'll find out after one of your early runs. And then it's your job to continuously grow the company, and that's the gist of the plot here. You begin with 3 different attacks, depending upon which character you choose at the start. Those 3 attacks are sequential, and will all be triggered by you hitting the attack button. You'll also have directional and jump and a special eventually, but that's it. Rather than be able to select which attack you want at any given time, the game cycles through whatever attacks you have listed in the bottom attack chain. This might be charming to some folks and others might find it intriguing, but I found it kind of boring. It took a lot of thinking out of the game, and you essentially just want to avoid attacks by jumping and then hit the only other button there is. There is a lot to building your character's chain of attack, and I understand the strategy involved in that, but the whole time I just felt like I wanted to control which and when those attacks occurred instead of just letting it happen randomly. Overall, it just kind of felt more like an auto battler or something closer to a Vampire Survivor, where those can be charming, but in a fast-paced action sequence, I'd like to have more control of what I do. On top of that, you can't change the order in any regard, so you're pretty much just stuck with the randomness of your selections. Now, this shouldn't take away from the actual combat, because when things get intense, it's really fun to play around with all those different attacks and just see how everything unfolds, because the animations are absolutely spot on. The roguelike features of the game boil down to you selecting the attacks that go on the bottom chain. You also select a special, and that special can be filled by you attacking enemies. The 2 most effective specials that I found were the slow motion, but really the number one and one you want to focus on is the ability to heal after your special meter fills. There really wasn't anything jumping out as redefining powers of the genre. It all just kind of comes together with the more characters that you unlock. The more characters you unlock, the more attacks you can open up to add to your attack chain for your character's next run. The attacks themselves do vary quite a lot and inject a good amount of humor into the corporate world that you're climbing. Your character can bore people into losing their very ability to move by being an extrovert and just talking about themselves, or you can bring tools to work to help you hammer or saw through the competition. Stick It to the Stickman has a number of different characters that all inject a good plethora of attacks and subtle humor. While the main game mode features that literal and figurative corporate climb, there will be different game modes added during early access, according to the developers at Free Lives. Outside that corporate climb, you also can do a number of different platforming levels. There's some brawler action, dance sessions, and all kinds of little mini games. They all come together in kind of an outworld area where you can gentrify parks or expand your business or current building, and it's just kind of the main hub of Stick It to the Stickman. Outside of the satire, where this game absolutely shines would have to be the art and music. The art style, although simple, shines through the game. The backgrounds and level builds give off a sort of cartoonish office vibe. And the music hits. It's interesting and tries to intertwine that annoying elevator music that you hear all so often in corporate buildings with some more ear-pleasing music. The lead composer and voice actor for the game, Jay, says that his inspiration mainly came from the early 2000s music scene, citing the Fight Club soundtracks, among other artists like Prodigy. It is enjoyable, and I think that it helps add another dimension to the game. The sound effects also help make that action pop in all the right spots. Being well-timed and subtle is always the name of the game with good sound effects, and that's what we have here. All the voice acting is very satirical. It just kind of feels like a version of South Park. But all in all, they tie it together really well to create a very interesting world to play around in.
Yet another new CEO.
Last one had an independent management style.
Word of advice, pal. Do what they ask.
Outside of one launch day crash, the game ran rather smoothly. There were some areas where an abundance of enemies slowed down the frame rate enough to have the audio not sync. It didn't happen in every instance of multiple enemies, but when it did happen, it definitely broke that immersion. It did not happen every single time you had a swarm of enemies, but every once in a while it got extra intense. You could notice a dip. Overall, I think this is a game that might hit the nostalgia note for a lot of Flash player fans. There's a lot of humor here, and when you get into a deep roguelike run, the combat can be enjoyable. But for fans of 2D action games, this might just be a little too one-dimensional. The combat and ragdoll physics are so much fun to play around with, but that simplistic one-button combat just doesn't make me want to come back and play this game too often. I should note I'm in the minority here. There are a lot of positive reviews already on Steam. Again, while I think this game is enjoyable at times, the combat just needs more freedom, at least for this gamer. But some fans, especially those looking for that Flash experience, really seem to enjoy this one. There is a demo available for PC on Steam and itch if you're on the fence. Stick It to the Stickman also retails at about $4.99 before any sales, if price sways you at all. So if you're interested, check out the early access version of Stick It to the Stickman by Free Lives. Thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit the like button. And subscribing goes a long way towards bringing you more content like this. We also have a weekly news podcast called the Indie Radar, where we focus on indie news and upcoming titles. Thanks again for watching from all of us here at The Gamer Buff.